Welcome to this episode of the Gunman. So this video here is part 1 on the 1975 Volkswagen Kombi Bay that we've been doing in the last couple of months. So for this video I'm going to be covering rust repairs, body filler repairs, primer work, and I'll even be going up through some polishing on some of the chrome work at the very end. I'll also give you a look at where we're up to. So this car is going to be getting a full video set on it. I'm not sure exactly how many it's going to have when it's finished, but I'll get through and have a look at what footage I've got and take you guys right through from start to finish. But this is where we started off anyway. So we've pulled all the parts off the car. It's not a full 100% restoration, as in take all of the paint off. We're just going over the top and we're hitting all of the affected rust areas, priming the entire car, getting rid of most of the highs and the lows, just the worst of it, and then giving it a good coat of paint, giving all the parts a good clean up, then putting it back together. We also did the tray there in some Raptor liner, which some of my viewers may have already seen the review and demonstration I did on the Raptor liner. But here's a bit of a look around at the damage that we've got. Because it's me and my business partner, I just decided to get a start on the panels, whereas my mate decided to start on the bodies. So I just ripped into these panels to start off with, grinded out a few little patches of rust that there was, and then I decided to do a bit of filler work here through the front of that door. It was pretty bad. There was a fair bit of damage all over it. So I'm just starting off, as you can see there, just with a bit of 80 grit, just to remove the stickiness from the body filler. I found sometimes that body filler will end up with a bit of a sticky layer just over the very top, but once you rip into it, once you got through that, it won't clog up the sandpaper too bad. And I'm starting off with 40 grit just to rip right into that filler. Otherwise it's just going to take forever and ever, and look, it took long enough to sand as it is, just with the 40 grit. But then after the 40 grit, I went over the top of that with some 80 grit, and then I even finished it right off with the 180 grit so that we can prime over it and hopefully not have any shrink back. I'm using the 3M purple long block and the purple sandpaper. It's actually a great combination. They're good blocks, and you can also plug them up to the dust extraction or a vacuum cleaner if you wish. They've got holes in the sandpaper that allow the vacuum to take all that dust away. It can help sometimes with the clogging up of the paper, and also keeps it off yourself and everyone else in the workshop. You can see sometimes I just don't bother doing it because I just can't be bothered. But moving on with the job, you can see I sanded the entire rest of the door down. Also went over all my edges with a bit of sandpaper to make sure there was no loose bits of paint or anything. And look, I did end up missing a little repair here or there on these panels, but sometimes you just get to the point where you just need to get a bit of primer on there, and you can reassess it, so reblock it down, and you're up to you got it up to a level surface. So, and that's what ended up happening with this. It wasn't a major big deal that there was one or two that I missed. So as you can see there, I'm using the Airgunsa AZ3 with the 1.8mm fluid tip on it for primer. I'm quite happy with this spray gun. I've been getting quite good results with it. If you have your primer really thick, well then, yeah, you might want to be using more of a 2.2mm nozzle on it. But yeah, for most primers, it's quite good. So as you can see there, the first coat, it's just a 70%, so you don't want to go full wet yet because it will actually probably shrink up and grab into that original paint a little bit too much, especially if there is acrylic paint under there, which was on this car. It is quite prone to reacting with the 2-pack. And after that, I've just followed that by a full 3 heavy thick coats. I thinned it down to about 15%, the primer. It was a Concept HS primer, as you may have noticed before. Quite a good primer. It fills up very well and it sands down very nice. So I just decided to record this part here, which is the inside of one of the side doors of this. And we've also done the rear doors, which covers the engine as well. So first up, you want to go and remove all of the loose rust. Now you do have a couple of options when doing this kind of thing. You could take the option of taking it down to the sandblasters, or get your own little sandblasting shed, which can be time consuming. and cost worthy as well. So sometimes you're better off just grinding the rust back, treating that rust, and then going over the top of that with some fiberglass, and that should buy you at least 5 years if done properly. So you may notice I'm using a few varying different tools for the job. Started off with the Roloc grinder. They're great little tools. They can get into all those little corners. This one here is just a wire brush on a angle grinder, which, as you can see, that's ripping off even more as well. So just being pretty careful where you're hitting the skin, like the outer skin. You don't want to go and get that too hot, or you can end up actually warping the outside of that skin. So just moving nice and quick when you're doing stuff like that. Just doing your best to get into all the corners. And as you can also see here, I've just got the orbital sander as well, and going over the rest of it where the flats of that skin is, where I didn't want to overheat it, and removing any more loose rust that there may be. Obviously, when you're dealing with rust and these kind of power tools, you really should be wearing your personal protective equipment. So you probably should be wearing a pair of gloves, a dust mask, and especially ear and eye protection. Eye protection is pretty important when using those grinders. I don't want a piece of rust landing in my eye, so I always wear them. Moving on with the job, I'm just getting the high pressured air and blowing off all of a bit more of that loose stuff that I've dislodged, and then it's enabling me to see if I've missed any more, and you'll be able to tell the difference because of the color of it. So it'll go a bit brighter once you've hit it. So as you can see, just hand sanded around all of those edges. Got that airline again, blowing all of that dusty stuff off. And next up, I'm using my rust converter. The brand I'm using is Austech rust converter. It's great stuff, and I've just put it into a bottle that's a trigger spray there. It just comes out in a 1 litre bottle, but not the trigger sprayer, so I like to spray it on and get it all inside those gaps, the places that we may not have been able to remove any of the loose stuff, say from the inside of those channels. So I like to fill that right up, get the poke it right in there so we can just fill it up. And you've really got to leave this stuff at least 24 hours. Now that may vary depending on temperatures, but yeah, you really want to sit it out in the sun if possible. Just get some heat into it. They do say, like, read the instructions like with any product. Yeah, they say you can hit it with a bit of water, which will actually help the rust converter find the channels, and will actually make its way through the rust a little bit better if you do that, they say. But sometimes I just think it's a bit more potent, not watered down. And you can see I'm getting the airline there to try and push it through to anywhere that it may not have got to. I always try to wear gloves when I'm using this stuff because it has a tendency to just get stuck on your hands and it just won't clean off, and your hands will just go black for like 2 or 3 days until those few layers of skin end up just falling off. So yeah, cleanup is water though, so if you get it anywhere that you don't want it, thinners will not touch it. Usually thinners would clean most chemicals off a car. However, for some reason it just doesn't, this stuff just doesn't budge, but if you get a bit of water it should come straight off. Next up, I found a few spots that were rust holes there, and what the owner even told us is, like, mate, just fiberglass it up, any of the smaller stuff. So there was a lot that we did weld up on this car. My mate did a lot on the body, and if you guys hang right around, it might be, say, in the 3rd or 4th video, I had to do a big rust hole on the tailgate myself. I just welded up a new section into it. But even if this was my car, this is probably the method that I would be doing. These little bits of rust aren't really big enough to warrant welding a patch in. You'd have to do a decent sized patch too, and you'd probably have to cut it out, and it's just more time and effort than what it's worth. Hey, if this comes, and especially if it's my own car, if this was to come back in 5 years, I'd just do another little repair on it and buy myself another 5 years, and just do a little spot in or something like that. But this fiberglass is quite good. It's like a fiberglass filler, and all you do is just put your normal body filler hardener into it. So this is the next step that we're up to. We're just up to getting the body into primer. I'd then gone in and primed up those tailgates and stuff like that, and then put them to the side while I gave my mate a hand on the body, just finishing off some body repairs. Yeah, look, I didn't record every single stage on this car. Like, sometimes I just get to the point where I've got all these jobs on and all these things that I'm trying to record, and as you can see out the front there's some GTS rims that I painted, and yeah, so I can't record everything, but I do my best, and I do take a lot of time and effort to make these videos. So don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to check me out on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff. There's links in the description of each one of my videos. Next up, we've done the same thing to the body, given it a good dust down, put it into the booth, masked it up, and it's ready for a few good coats of primer. I actually didn't even prime the body myself. I painted the body, but I didn't prime the body. I was just at the point, after months and months of painting and priming and painting and priming just about everything, I'm like, to my business partner, I said, man, you can do it, just give me a break. Like, the next step you guys see us doing here is just doing a few blackouts, little finishing touches like that. I ended up painting the dash as well. It's what makes a good job and an okay job. I also painted those wheels in just a bit of chassis black. I blacked out all the underbody. I've done inside here in some Raptor liner as well, so that's down underfoot. It's going to provide a good 2-pack coating, and under the seat I also just used a bit of chassis black just to make it look a little bit better. So yeah, next up we gone and put a few parts on here and there. And one thing I can tell you, if you're ever to take a job like this on, my uncle had a restoration shop, and one thing he always told me was, especially when doing an old car like this and restoration, there's no use in putting a part back on that's dirty or it's not polished. So every single door handle, every single trim, wiper blades, all of that, like little rubbers, get a thinner's rag onto your rubbers and clean them right up. Don't put dirty parts back on old cars. You might do it on a new car, I don't really care, but especially if you've gone to this much time and effort to make the body look good, make the parts that you're putting back on look just as good. It's, again, one of those things that makes a difference between a okay job and a good job. But next up, I decided to show you guys what I'm going to do to polish up the front bumper bar. I ended up specifically ordering in some metal polish for this job. Good quality product. It's called California Custom, the original purple metal polish. This stuff's great for chrome work and alloy, or anything basically that's metal that you want to get a bit of a gloss out of. Since getting this stuff, I actually found we were able to use a bit of a sample from stuff that's at the airport, and it's actually even a little bit better. I can't even tell you guys the name of it, but it was really bringing up my alloy drop tank on my own VL Commodore. Brought it up really nice. But stay tuned for more vids on that VL. They are coming soon. I've got the turbo in it now, but yeah, I'll definitely be getting onto a video on that one in the next week or two. So there you guys go. You can see I'm using the black foam pad on the buffer there. If you didn't have one, you can just use a nice clean cotton cloth to wipe on and then wipe off. You need to use those cloths dry though, so that only lubrication that's going to be there is the compound itself, not water, because water just seems to break it down and it really doesn't do the job quite as good as what it's meant to. And then again, just dry it off and wipe it off with a dry cloth. So there you go. Look, it's not going to perform miracles, but it's definitely going to clean it up a lot better than what it was. You can see there's a little bit of oxidization and sort of a little bit of rust on this side as well, so it's definitely an improvement on what it was. So as the car sits at the moment, it's still not 100% finished. Our side of things are done. All the body repairs are done. Panels are all back on. Basically, we're just waiting on the trimmer, which is this car's down the road at the moment. So I decided to finish this video off with a bit of a before and after. So there's before, and this is where we're up to at the moment. I actually drove this thing down to the trimmers today myself, and I was quite impressed with the power that this little engine's got in it. It's obviously air-cooled, and it goes quite well. There's bound to be people out there that know a hell of a lot more about these cars than what I do, but I can tell you one thing that since doing this I've learnt. This model is called a bay, and the previous models to these were called the split screen. Now the bay actually refers to the front windscreen there being on a little bit of an angle. It's like I was always knew a bay window to be like in a house, sort of a window that you could sit in, and they go jut out a little bit. But there you guys go. There's a quick look at the engine. I know these cars have really got a big cult following worldwide, and you can still get just about every single part made brand new for these things. So if you are thinking of doing one up, don't really be too worried about parts. All I'd really worry about is prices of those parts, because they are quite expensive. Those side panels on the back of the Ute, they were $8,000 for a new set of them. Instead, I spent probably about a week and a half repairing and painting them. So by the time I get the next video up for you guys, hopefully it will be back from the trimmers, and I'll get the owner to drop back in to get some video footage of all that interior finished off. So there you guys go. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Again, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. Thanks for watching, and this has been another Gunman production. Goodbye.